Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Hi, I'm Eden Lane. Thanks for joining us for In Focus. Tonight is a special episode for us. It's our 200th episode. It was hard to see 6 seasons ago how far we would go and how many artists we'd be able to bring you from all over Colorado. There's so much great work happening here in theater, dance, music, visual arts, writers, filmmakers, designers, and so much more. And it's been our privilege to bring those stories to you and help introduce you to some of the artists that are working right here in Colorado. Tonight, on our 200th episode, we'll have a look back at some of those stories, some that you even selected as our viewers, and we'll also show you a little bit about how we put the show together. It's been said the very beginning is a very good place to start. So here's a look at our premiere episode with my very first guest. Welcome to the premiere of In Focus. I'm Eden Lane. Colorado has a vibrant artistic community that ranges from theater, dance, and music to visual arts, writers, and so much more. And while you may be aware of the large events that come to town, you may not always know about the wonderful things that are being created right here. Well, that's our mission. We're here to help you keep it in focus. We'll stop by the Curious Theater at their annual fundraising event, this year featuring Governor Ritter, Lanny Garrett, Reggie Rivers, and Sandy Tannenbaum. Denver Stories is a unique performance event featuring some of Denver's most influential and exciting personalities, while highlighting one of Denver's cultural gems, the Curious Theater Company. We're lucky enough to have our first stop on the red carpet be with Governor Ritter himself. Hello, Governor Ritter.
How you doing?
Great.
Good to see you, Eden.
Have you seen the play that's been written about your life?
No, I did see a script of it and didn't get much editorial control, although enough to be very comfortable that they're really sensitive because, I mean, making somebody's, trying to walk through somebody's life in a little amount of time and do it with some sensitivity.
And how does it feel?
Well, I don't know how really to react to that. I've never been the subject of anything except newspaper editorials. So it actually feels.
Fun either,
oh, they're not. I've had some that are absolutely not fun at all. It feels pretty cool.
Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you. It's really nice seeing you. Thank you.
We visit the Cherry Creek Arts Festival where we meet glass artist Kit Karbler and emerging artist Julie Madrid. And an exclusive visit with Casey Horn at his studio where he creates his work. Welcome to In Focus. I'm Eden Lane. As you can see behind me, we're here at the Cherry Creek Arts Festival. We're going to follow some student art buyers from Centennial Elementary and see what they choose for their school. We'll also have a chance to visit 2 of the local artists who are exhibiting here at Cherry Creek Arts Festival, one for the very first time. It should be a great event. Of course, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Later we'll visit Opera Colorado for their preseason production called Sideshow, centered around Leonard Bernstein's Trouble in Tahiti. And the first weekend will be at the new Studio Loft Theater at the Ellie Calkins. But we begin tonight with the cast of the Denver Center Theater production of American Night. With this large cast and the large cast of characters, does anyone feel a little schizophrenic during this performance?
Yes. 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 Definitely the first week when we put all the tech elements together, because we had worked on the script in the rehearsal room for the longest time, and then we included the tech elements, which were costumes, lights, and sound, and that definitely, for me personally, threw me into a dizzy, because then we had to add all the costumes and do your changes and then concentrate what you're going to say being out of breath. Because that became an issue, is how do you come on stage and control your energy that you have off stage and then to play the scene on stage.
And the rehearsal process, of course, you're breaking it down and you're doing bits and pieces, not necessarily connecting it together. So the first time you did it in the space with all of those elements and tried to do it straight through, what was that like?
It's a marathon. It's definitely running a marathon. And we have a lot of help backstage. We have a crew of about 5 and 3 dressers working really hard to keep us on track. So even if you forget what your next character is, you've got a dresser standing there holding your costume. So you're like, oh, that's who I'm playing.
Or physically moving you to the spot.
Exactly. So
how do we begin to describe American Night for viewers?
I always say it's about this immigrant. He's here legally, and he's studying to become a citizen. And the turmoil, the pressure of taking this test and hopefully becoming a citizen. He falls asleep throughout that, and he has this amazing dream about American history. But it's American history that's untold or unheard of or even unread.
Or taken for granted.
Exactly.
Did anybody else learn something or internalize your patriotism or your citizenship in a different way after working on this project?
I think to sort of echo what Dina said, it's what's surprising about this show is, although we do explore some of some sadder moments in American history, is it ends up being a great celebration of our country. And to me, it champions what's really the strength of our country and something that I'm really proud about, and that sort of the melting pot, and how that really makes our country stronger than any other country in a sense in the world. To me, it's one of our strengths. I don't often think about it, but this play has made me think a lot about it.
I'll feel an intense pride when I see Sam with the Ku Klux Klan, and he's dancing with us. And that final montage, like we're all dancing together, all people of color, and dancing with the Ku Klux Klan guy right there.
To me, that image at the end it's encapsulated in what Jackie Robinson says about his mitt. And what is that? What's that speech? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
He talks about that moment where he says all the imperfections.
Yeah, it's still
made in America.
Not to step on your toes and quote your lines for you. Tonight we go back to the Pikes Peak Writers Conference where we meet writer John Hart. He established his audience quickly with his stunning debut, The King of Lies. And in 2008, he won the Edgar Award for his second novel, Downriver. He won the same award in 2010 for The Last Child. And tonight he tells us about his writing process and his latest work, Iron House. Thanks for sneaking away from the conference to come up here and visit with us today.
It's quiet, you're beautiful, I'll do this all day long. So I don't ever write about social issues. They often find their way into my books. But I write about what's driving the characters to do whatever exceptional things is going to make the story worth reading.
So what is your process like when you decide that this is the character you want to write about, or does it begin with character? How do you
always begins with the character. My process, once you back out the quiet and utter panic that comes from starting a new book, and I do feel that until about page 200.
That seems to be a common benchmark for writers, page 200.
It's weird,
Either good or bad.
Well, I think that those that share that trait, I think, fall in one camp of writers. I think there are really two styles of novelists. There are those that outline, and there are those that grope and hope. And I'm of the grope and hope school, which means I know who my character is, and I may have some vague idea of where I want him to be at the end of the book, but I'm just feeling my way along. And it becomes a year-long sustained leap of faith, and that's how I describe it, because no one can stand over my shoulder and say, hey, this is genius, it's going to work, because no one really knows where I'm going to go. So my process is really beginning with a very strong sense of the main character, and usually 2 or 3 powerful emotional drivers. In Downriver, Adam Chase, the young man, was driven by a sense of loss and rage. In The King of Lies, my debut novel, Work Pickens, was driven by guilt and shame. And then in The Last Child and in Iron House, you've got other drivers for those characters. So really the process is just nailing down in my own mind who this character is, what his issues are, and then trying to come up with a really exciting plot that allows him to grow, or her, to grow beyond those issues, to incorporate them into some process whereby they emerge at the end of the book in some different form. Maybe they're better off, maybe they're worse off, but they have come to grips with whatever these forces are that drive them. Now that's all twined very deeply in whatever the plot points and the story arc might be. I mean, you got to have a story. People need to feel compelled to turn that page.
Has to be something to cause you to turn that page.
Oh man, it's all about that. I love it when I get, this literary is a dangerous word in my mind, because literary implies a certain pretension to me. I mean, people love to talk about the difference between literary fiction and genre fiction. I don't think the line is that clear. I think when people say it's literary work, I think it just means it has a certain depth, that it's not pure plot. I mean, there's other things that are going on there. And that's what I aspire to. I mean, I love the power of a genre-style plot, meaning, you know, it's not necessarily predictable, but there are somewhat recognizable elements that, you know, some bad thing has happened, you know, there will be repercussions from this bad act. What will it lead people to do? But the literary element should always be, what is the personal growth in the characters you've built that comes from dealing with the repercussions of that bad act?
Tone and dialogue.
Oh, all of that.
all
Setting
that
and voice. And
I think readers identify literary in the very same way that you described more often than people in the publishing industry might.
I think
2011 marked the 40th anniversary of Cleo Parker Robinson Dance. It also marked the company's first visit to New Zealand. And Cleo created her first new work on her company in 10 years.
So this is it's a little different because you've invested so much, and it's a time that the economy is horrible, and people are saying people don't go to the theater and they don't have money for this, and this is, you know, and I say, but the arts we need them like we need water. We need them like we need food. We have to have them. Our children need them, and they need them all over the world. They need wherever we go. So I then realized I have to say something. And then that's when I realized, well, where am I? I am in the West. Then I knew I had to say, this is my journey. I am a Western girl. I'm not an Eastern girl. I didn't come out of New York. I didn't come out of the South. I was born right here. What stories do I have to say as an African-American woman? A woman of this rich culture that's right here. What do I have to say? And I'll tell it through the stories of others.
And that's what Dream Songs
And that's what Dream Songs is.
That ambitious trip and this long-awaited new work, does that mean that after 10 years of a break that we're going to be able to see more work coming with the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance?
Well, you know, I think so. I think I love choreographing.
Well, I'm encouraged to hear that you think this is part of a series of works.
I do believe it. I think so. I pray so, because there are many stories that I couldn't tell. I think this is just the beginning. So I think there's more stories to be told. And I hope I encourage others, mostly young people, to tell their story. Because if they tell their stories, they'll be healthier and happier.
Thank you.
Honey, bless your heart. Bless your heart. You are fantastic. Oh my God, are you wonderful. God, she's great. You know that.
We shoot every episode of In Focus on location. And while I'm often setting up all 3 cameras alone, it's always more fun with one of our volunteers. And 2 have been with me since the very beginning, Tom Biddle and my husband Don. Creating a television show on a very limited budget isn't very glamorous, but I'm very grateful to the artists, the volunteers, and to you, the viewers, whose direct financial support allows us to cover Colorado arts. Some of my guests appreciate the opportunity to go beyond the PR talking points for their projects. A surprising and moving example was George Hamilton while he was at the Buell Theater on tour with La Cage aux Folles.
You might bite it off, but to digest it's another thing. That's over with. The people who have seen this enjoy it, and there's never not been a standing ovation in this show. I don't think it has anything to do with me. I just think it's the composite of it all, and the music and everything else, and also it's about a country that with all our flaws, we have been able to accept the flaws that we perceive in others, and now realize our strengths. This is what America's strengths. And I'm amazed at it. I'm pleased to have been part of that, you know. I'm not gay. I had a brother who was, and I saw him suffer through an era where it was totally closeted, and he had he had no chance to be himself. And I don't think he ever felt accepted by my mother. And I, because I was raised by him really, totally accepted him. And it was very interesting. And at the point, he died very young, 53, and alcoholism and such. And I was with him for 6 months until the end. And when he passed away, I was in the room with him, and we were talking the night before, and I said, Bill, if you had it to do over again, what would you do differently?
What was his answer?
I'd love more.
I think that we all can identify with that sentiment.
Amazing, amazing to me. And that's what this is all about. It's about being who you are. It's about family and about love. And it passes all those other things, you know, all those petty things that we bigoted, small-minded people bring into it. That's all. America's so great that it's absorbing that. I just hope we can deal with what we're going through now. It's far worse than what we've gone through. You know, we're in a situation now where this is really put up or shut up time in America, I think.
And we can't forget Colorado natives Matt Stone and Trey Parker launching the national tour of Book of Mormon right here. When you began this process, your musical experience was your first movie, Cannibal, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of only had Fiddler on the Roof as your frame of reference for it.
You've done some reading, I see. Yeah, Trey definitely grew up doing musicals, and he's like the musical guy out of the both of us. My musical experience came from Fiddler on the Roof. My mom
just the recording.
Just the album Fiddler on the Roof. She played over and over and over, and I think it was to try to get me to be more Jewish and hopefully to convince me to be more bar mitzvahed, which didn't work. But the other big part of it for me was the Monty Python movies. Always they had one musical.
Number.
Yeah, number, and they're amazingly well done. You know, I know they're just single numbers, but that's my musical, you know, background. But growing up in Colorado, yeah, I had no experience in theater or anything like that.
So if the recording of Fiddler on the Roof was your first introduction to musical theater, what was yours?
It was the same. I mean, growing up in Conifer, we didn't have a whole lot of live theater. So,
did you come down to Denver?
So, you know, I did. I actually came down here. I think the first thing I saw here was Cats, maybe. And then I remember seeing Starlight Express here. But really, I mean, those weren't my big favorite. I loved the old Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff that I got to see just on VHS, same kind of thing, where it was like, because I really did grow up more with a love of movies, and I wanted to be a filmmaker and make make television and film. But in that, I loved musicals the most, and I loved Singing in the Rain, and I loved all the, you know, and I just loved it as a movie. And it didn't even, you know, it wasn't even so much of like, wow, the stage. It was just like, wow, movie musicals. Like I really grew up more infatuated with movie musicals than with the actual stage.
So how did you translate that? How did you find translating that to a physical audience interaction with your work?
It was a bitch. It was a bitch because we're so used to we're also known in Hollywood as the guys that don't test anything. We don't believe in filling a theater with people and sitting in the back and taking notes. We don't focus group. We don't focus group. No. We just never believe. We just always like, if we think it's funny, then we're going to put it there. Focus group with each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, most Hollywood, movies, they're focus group to death. I mean, and really, to death.
Sometimes it really shows.
Yeah, and it really shows.
Yeah, I mean, they really you can tell it's been committed. But with theater, you can't ignore what the audience thinks. You can be like, I don't care. It's funny. If there's 1,000 people there not laughing at a joke, you got to change it. You can't quite have that same ethic, because in theater, the audience is part of the show. It's part of the experience.
It's a character, working with the audience as a character member, and then really writing the songs to say, okay, stop, hold on, I'm going to tell you something right now, because this is important for you to hear. Right. That's what I loved about theater, was like, unlike a movie where you're just kind of you're spying in on everyone's lives.
Your first song that you did with Bobby was opening number.
Yeah.
What was the song that made you realize you had a full-on show? Something more than a sketch, where you knew this project was really going to work.
I think when we had the idea, we hadn't written the song yet, but we had the idea that we should do a song like in The King and I, when the woman tells the story of Uncle Tom's Cabin in her version of it. And we kind of had this idea early on of like, it'd be great that they're hearing the Mormon story, and then these people will, in a very King and I, we kept talking about King and I, we're like, we should have that moment in Act 2 when they regurgitate it and say, here's what we now believe. And I think it's when
we heard you say.
Yeah, and it's like when we had that as the hook of Act 2, that's when I think we really felt like we had a show that was going to be about something and actually really have a place to go, and everything was about getting to that moment.
Yeah.
The Arvada Center began the year with a brand new executive director, Philip Sneed, and a major art exhibit from across Colorado. The Arvada Center just launched another major exhibit. This time I'm meeting Colin to talk about the art of the state. We're in the upper gallery, and I see that you have this great graphic, and it's also mimicked on your t-shirt, and there's a great story behind that. Tell me about that.
Well, this is one of our partnerships with Warren Tech High Schools, which is based in Jefferson County. And we work with the graphic design instructors, Scott Odendahl and Pete Kunis, to basically, it's a little mini competition where their graphic design students or advanced students propose different murals, graphics for the exhibition. And the winner of this is Nick Vella, a 17-year-old.
You even had a chance to recognize him on opening night.
Yeah, actually the Arts Council gave a honorable mention to a few artists, and they actually chose Nick.
Oh.
Even though he's not an artist in the exhibition, they saw that how great his art was, and they gave him a nice little honorable mention award.
Colin invited us to sit down in the theater gallery. It also happens to occur when you've redone the main gallery space.
Oh yeah, so it was kind of this like grand opening, and we redid the flooring in the main floor gallery.
It looks beautiful, but why?
Why? Okay. We've had that carpet in that space since 1992, and the facility manager came and says, time to replace the carpet. I was like, we should rip it out. And there are many reasons for that. Actually, aesthetically as a gallery, it really helps display the work.
How does it help display the work? What impact does that have?
It's more neutral. It just kind of focuses more on the art rather than the space that you're in. Plus, it just makes the space a little more contemporary. You know, here at the Arvada Center, we always try to just keep up to date, and it really helped just focus your attention to the art rather than the space. But as you know, when you walk in a gallery, the space sometimes really enhances the art, so they kind of speak to each other really well.
Summer 2013 marked our first break in production, but our final episode was devoted to $650,000 in grants awarded to Colorado arts organizations. And we joined one of the recipients, Wonderbound, at their new home in Denver. Toward moving from being a suburban-based arts organization in Colorado to being right downtown here in the core, in an area that is ramping up arts so quickly. Your neighbors are a testament to that, but you're right in the center of that. What does that mean to you as artists to be in this new environment?
Well, the big thing is just how the community is already engaged. It's been so organic, because even though we had some snow and some cold, but a lot of our rehearsal days we were actually able to open our garage doors and have people stand on the street for hours and watch what we were actually doing anyways, not something that was specifically to engage the public, if you will. No, our normal rehearsal day, Garrett was creating a world premiere ballet, and all of a sudden you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 people standing on the street watching art happen and injecting beauty into their lives, and it wasn't planned. It's just there, and all of a sudden it makes something that a lot of people think is really inaccessible, it puts it right in front of them and enables them to have beauty in their lives.
It quite literally changes the dynamic of the whole company, not just because you've changed the name, but because it can no longer be thought of as this elite art form that's set aside for those who can access it with a certain income level. It becomes part of a vibrant, very diverse, very dynamic environment.
Yeah, absolutely. The classical arts all came out of the people. Dance comes from being a social art form that grew out of folk culture, out of villages, and somewhere along the way, I feel like the classical arts managed to lose track of that a little. And I think we're in a time in our broader human history of kind of realizing that we have to reframe that and re-engage and in a real way, in a genuine way, and make art belong to the people again.
During the break, we tried many creative ways to raise funds, including a Fast Company Small Business Contest.
Hey, I'm Don.
And I'm Eden.
And to the world, we are known as Sleeping Dog Media.
We produce a weekly half-hour broadcast covering the arts right here in Colorado for a local PBS station. And after 5 seasons and 156 episodes, we featured artists that are celebrities and many artists that aren't quite as celebrated yet, but should be. Because we shoot every segment on location, we pack our mobile studio into our little tracker, and that usually works just fine right here at home. But we want to take our show on the road, and building on our success of covering the arts in Colorado, we'll feature the arts in every corner of the country, ranging from theater, dance, music, visual arts, filmmakers, and so much more, all on a platform available to every PBS station. So viewers everywhere will have a chance to meet these people who are as intriguing as their work.
So as you can see, we got some gear in here, and we got to get a crew in here, and we got to get our bags for traveling for overnight. So.
And we don't want to forget to bring our little dogs with us. So what would be more perfect than to have a Mercedes Sprinter van to help us grow our business and elevate our coverage to bring you the creative people all across America?
Well, yeah.
Okay, let's go. It's hard to believe we've reached 200 episodes in 6 seasons. So we end the look back with the closing from our first episode. Well, that's the final curtain on our first show. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come back again next time when we're going to bring you more of the creative work being done right here in Colorado. And if there's something you think we should cover, well, let us know. Visit our webpage at infocustv.org. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.